In our discussion today, we will be comparing the political philosophies of civic republicanism and plutocracy. This discussion was requested by a listener on a recent video. Basically, the question is, do we, meaning primarily the United States, live more under a form of civic republicanism or a plutocracy? Do we lean more towards one or the other? Which model of governance and societal organization aligns best with current-day politics? When analyzing the fundamental differences between two political systems, we need to gain a deeper understanding of their implications for things such as individual freedom, political participation, and the common public good. We'll start off by looking at civic republicanism. This form of governance has its roots in classical antiquity and has a core political philosophy that champions the values of civic virtue, active citizen participation, and the pursuit of the common good. It draws inspiration from the writings of prominent philosophical figures like Aristotle, Polybius, and Cicero, who emphasized the importance of a virtuous citizenry and a well-ordered republic. Central to civic republicanism is the belief that individuals can best flourish and achieve true freedom within a society marked by robust engagement in public life. Furthermore, civic republicanism recognizes the importance of strong political institutions to achieve and protect this goal. These political structures are essential for upholding the principles of the common good and preventing any individual or group from dominating others. Citizens of a republic are expected to place the common good above their personal interests and actively participate in public affairs. This includes upholding the rule of law, engaging in political discourse, and holding public officials accountable. Education plays a crucial role in fostering civic virtue by shaping citizens who understand their civic duties and are committed to the common good. To prevent any single group or person from gaining undue power and to ensure the stability of the republic, civic republicanism recommends a balanced system of government that incorporates elements of monarchy, aristocracy, and democracy. Freedom in civic republicanism is not simply the absence of interference, but the absence of arbitrary power. Citizens should be free from the domination of any individual or group, including the wealthy and powerful. This concept of freedom as non-domination is central to civic republican thought and distinguishes it from many other political philosophies that either focus solely on the individual or on authoritarian or aristocratic leadership. In this governance model, laws should be applied equally to all citizens, regardless of their social standing or wealth. The rule of law is fundamental to protecting individual rights and preventing the abuse of power. Civic republicanism offers a distinctive approach to public decision-making that emphasizes deliberation, reasoned dialogue, and a focus on the common good. This model is intended to address the counter-majoritarian difficulty, a concern in constitutional theory about the legitimacy of unelected judges and administrators overturning or subverting laws passed by democratically elected representatives. By promoting a deliberative legislative process, civic republicanism seeks to ensure that laws are not simply the result of majority rule, but are grounded in reasoned argument and a consideration of the common good. The impact of this form of government can be observed through various quantitative measures that reflect the practical implications of civic republican principles. A strong civic tradition is statistically associated with lower levels of national unrest and crime, suggesting that socio-political engagement and a shared commitment to the common good contribute to social stability. Policy analysts have found that societies where this tradition is strong experience faster progress in implementing positive social and political changes for the majority of citizens. They've also discovered that the cost of maintaining stability is lower in societies with a strong Republican tradition, suggesting that civic virtue and a commitment to the common good reduce the need for coercive measures to maintain order. These quantitative indicators provide evidence that civic Republican principles can have tangible positive effects on societal well-being and stability. Of course, there are some drawbacks that can show up in the civic republicanism model. Civic republicanism relies heavily on citizens maintaining high levels of civic virtue, prioritizing the common good over their own self-interest. This can be difficult to achieve in practice, especially in diverse societies with competing interests. If citizens become apathetic or prioritize personal gain over the common good, the system can falter. Also, even with a strong emphasis on civic virtue, there's always a risk that factions or interest groups, regional or financial, could form and undermine the pursuit of the common good. This was a concern raised by James Madison, who argued that a large republic with diverse interests could lead to destructive factionalism, warning us that enlightened statesmen will not always be at the helm. As we have seen since his time, factions form over differing opinions, creating serious political division in the United States, including the Civil War. Also, as we have seen, finding the right balance between individual rights and the demands of civic participation can be challenging, something we can see in the difficult policy debates we have today, ranging from pandemic responses, reproductive rights, the right to bear arms, and other controversial topics. Even in a system designed to promote the common good, there's a risk that the majority could impose its will on the minority, leading to a form of tyranny. Civic republicanism needs to incorporate safeguards to protect the rights of individuals and minorities and to ensure that all voices are heard. When it doesn't have this feature, or if it becomes compromised in some way, trust in the system begins to erode. Because of these factors, some political scholars believe that there's a challenge of scale. They think that civic republicanism may be easier to implement in smaller, more homogeneous communities where citizens have a strong sense of shared identity and purpose. In larger, more diverse societies, it can be more challenging to foster the necessary levels of civic engagement and consensus. This is why some have suggested a form of cellular democracy, a system I discussed in a previous video, as a way to maintain stronger civic engagement across a large population. Of course, there is a concern that the rise of factions, especially ones with great wealth and power, can cause the decline of a civic republic into plutocracy. Before we get into that problem, the crux of the issue raised in the comments in relation to U.S. politics, let's quickly review what a plutocracy is. Plutocracy, derived from the Greek words plutos, meaning wealth, and kratos, meaning power, refers to a system of government in which the wealthy wield disproportionate influence on political decision-making. In a plutocracy, economic power translates into political power, often leading to policies that favor the interests of the wealthy over those of the general population. In some cases, this concentration of wealth and power has been unrelated to direct financial dominance. For example, oligarchies that concentrate power within a small group of people, such as a military junta, revolutionary committee, or groups of technocrats, and seize national wealth and power for their own benefit. So what are some of the key characteristics of plutocracy? Most notable is a concentration of wealth and power, where a small elite controls a significant portion of the society's wealth and resources, giving them undue influence over political processes. This concentration of wealth and power tends to be self-reinforcing, as these elites use their influence to further their own economic interests and maintain their hold on power. This allows the elites to use their economic and political power to shape public policy in ways that benefit their interests, often through lobbying, campaign contributions, and media ownership. This influence can manifest in various forms, such as tax and business policies that favor the elites and impair competitors while limiting reform movements. Plutocracy tends to exacerbate social and economic inequalities, as the elites of a society accumulate more wealth and power at the expense of the less fortunate. This can lead to a widening gap between the rich and the poor, with limited social mobility and diminished opportunities for those at the lower end of the economic spectrum. The concentration of power in the hands of the elite can undermine democratic institutions and processes as the voices of ordinary citizens are marginalized. This can lead to a decline in voter turnout, disillusionment with the political system, and a sense that the government is unresponsive to the needs of the people. Furthermore, plutocracy can perpetuate the acceptance of social and economic disparities as natural or inevitable. However, some thinkers have argued in favor of plutocracy, contending that the elites, by virtue of their success in business, politics, and finance, are best equipped to make sound economic decisions that benefit society as a whole. They might also claim that plutocracy promotes stability and efficiency, as those with a vested interest in the system are incentivized to maintain its smooth functioning. Now, let's get into the key question that was asked. Where does the U.S. fall between the balance of civic republicanism and plutocracy? Well, from the historical context of the U.S. Constitution, we can see elements of plutocracy. While the Constitution aimed to end hereditary monarchy and theocracy, it initially enshrined the power of white male property owners, including the continuation of slavery in the southern states. This historical context shaped the evolution of American democracy and continues to influence political debates today, from the Electoral College to diversity policies. In contemporary times, some political scholars argue that the United States is exhibiting more and more characteristics of plutocracy. These concerns are fueled by factors such as the increasing concentration of wealth in the hands of the few, increasing income inequality, deterioration of the middle class, the growing influence of lobbying and campaign contributions on policy decisions, and the growing perception that the political system favors the interests of the wealthy over those of ordinary citizens. Let's next consider how the gradual slouching towards plutocracy takes place, and some strategies to restore and improve civic republicanism. As I noted, a civic republic depends on citizens actively participating in public life and prioritizing the common good. When civic virtue declines for some reason, it creates an opening for wealth to exert undue influence. As economic inequality and corruption grows, wealth becomes concentrated in the hands of a smaller and smaller elite. This concentration of wealth can translate into political power as the elites gain the means to influence elections, lobby for favorable policies, and shape public discourse. The wealthy elite may use their influence to undermine democratic norms and institutions. This can include weakening campaign finance laws, institutionalized lobbying, and influencing media coverage to favor their interests. Over time, the wealthy may gain control of key political institutions, such as legislatures, executive branches, and judicial systems. This allows them to shape laws and policies that further entrench their power and protect their wealth. As plutocratic tendencies take hold, social mobility declines, making it harder for people from less privileged backgrounds to gain access to wealth and political power. This reinforces the cycle of wealth concentration and elite rule. Over time, the political system becomes increasingly focused on serving the interests of these wealthy and connected elites rather than promoting the common good. This can lead to policies that exacerbate inequality, undermine public services, and erode social cohesion. As citizens perceive that the political system is rigged in favor of the elites, they lose trust in government and become disillusioned with democratic processes. This can lead to declining voter turnout, lack of participation in the military and other governmental and civic institutions, and even lead to severe social unrest. It's a bleak picture, and it's no wonder that people see these signs in America today. But it's important to remember that this process is not inevitable. What can we, as citizens, do to reverse this situation? On the top of my list, we need to work towards reforming and reinforcing the institutions and processes that promote transparency and accountability in government. This can be done by promoting ethical leadership and public service that prioritizes the common good over private interests. This includes promoting transparency and accountability in government, strengthening ethical guidelines for public officials, including term limits and restrictions on revolving door lobbying. We will need to combat corruption and undue influence in government by strengthening oversight mechanisms, promoting transparency in decision-making, and enforcing laws against tacit bribery and conflicts of interest. We will need to support a vibrant civil society, including independent media, nonprofit organizations, and community groups that can hold power accountable and promote the common good. This includes protecting freedom of speech and assembly, protection of voting rights, promoting access to information, and encouraging citizen engagement in public discourse. Also, this will require investment in civic education to foster a strong sense of civic virtue and responsibility among citizens. This includes educating young citizens about their rights and responsibilities, promoting critical thinking and media literacy, and encouraging active participation in public discourse and community affairs. We can promote social cohesion and a sense of shared identity by investing in public spaces, supporting community initiatives, and fostering dialogue and understanding across different social groups instead of retreating into isolated echo chambers. It may become necessary to consider a more cellular approach to our civic structures to curtail the growth of powerful elites who don't hold a real commitment to the common good. Do you think that by taking these steps we can reaffirm commitment to the common good, strengthen democratic institutions, and prevent the slide towards plutocracy? Or do you see the slide as too far along the path to reverse it? As one of my favorite science fiction aliens said, "The avalanche has already started. It's too late for the pebbles to vote." Do we have a chance to continue along the path of civic virtue? Have we already deviated too far from it? Or were we never really on it and just fooling ourselves to think otherwise? Let me know what you think in the comments. And I appreciate it if you appease the elite AI overlords by doing the like and subscribe thing. Thanks again for watching and listening to my ramblings.